Hello, welcome to the channel. My name is JonHut and today I'm gonna share with you the Randomness, a free plugin that I create for every FL Studio user. In this tutorial, I'm gonna show you how to use the plugin in deep. We are gonna have a listen to some examples and also the installation process. So I'm gonna leave the link to download the plugin on the description below. Now, in order to use this plugin, you are gonna need another free plugin, which is a transient shaper by Kilohertz. I'm also gonna leave the link to download this free plugin on the description below. And I'm gonna suggest you to install this plugin because I have another powerful plugin coming really soon, which also needs this plugin. And of course, you can use this free plugin, which in my opinion is a really good free transient shaper. So with that said, let's start with this tutorial. Okay, so this is the Randomness, a free powerful plugin that I create using Patcher to avoid boring static drums by randomizing either the attack, sustain, gain or volume and the pan of the sound source. Now, the first thing that I want to mention is that the essence of this plugin is based on a free plugin, which is a transient shaper by Kilohertz. But we are going to have a look to the installation process later on. Now let's have a quick overview of the plugin. So the Randomness have 4 different panels. It have the main panel, the speed module, noise module and split module. So let's have a closer look to the main panel. Okay, so here on the main panel we have 4 main knobs, which are the attack, volume, sustain, and the pan. All of these knobs basically controls the amount of randomization that we apply either to the attack, volume, sustain or panning. Next, we have the pump and speed knob. So the pump knob basically controls the amount of attenuation that we apply directly after the transient, which emphasizes the transient without increasing the level. And with the speed knob, if we set a higher values, will result in a snappier transient modification. And with lower values, will result in smoother curves. Next, we have this lead knob in the middle of the volume knob, which sets the range of how the transients are detected. It's really useful when you are working with pre-shifted samples. Next, we have this button under the pan knob, which change the algorithm of how the panning is being randomized. Next, we have the speed sliders. So with the big slider, you can control the LFO speed in sync with your project tempo. And with the small slider, you can control the LFO speed in a free mode. Now, these speed sliders control globally when you want the randomness to happen to the attack, sustain, volume, and pan. It doesn't change the amount of randomness, change the time when you want this randomness to happen. Next, here on top, we have these 2 buttons. This one on the right is the bypass button, and this one on the left enable or disable the clipper of the transient plugin. And last, here on the main panel, we have the output level. So now let's have a look to the speed module. Here on the speed panel, you can control individually the speed of each individual main knob, the pan, the volume, the attack or the sustain. All of these sliders are the same as on the main page. So with the big slider, you control the LFO speed in sync, and with the small slider, you control the LFO speed in free mode. Now, the only thing that you have to keep in mind is that if you start tweaking all of these settings and then you go to the main panel and modify the global speed, all of the settings from the speed panel will be lost. If you want to recover all of these settings, simply move back and forth each slider to recover the settings. And now let's have a look to the noise module. Okay, so here on the noise module, by default is off. So you can use the bypass button to activate the noise module. Now, once activated, you have these 3 main knobs, the level, tension, and decay. So the level controls the amount of noise that you want to add to the sound source. The tension knob controls the tension curve of the noise. And the decay basically controls the duration of the noise. This white button basically select the type of noise. So right now it's set on white noise. If I click on it, it becomes pink, which means it's set on pink noise. Then we have these two knobs, which are a high pass filter and low pass filter for the noise. And last, we have this button to control how you want the noise. When the button is off, the noise is mono, and when is enabled, the noise is stereo. And now let's have a look to the split module. So the split module split the signal in two frequencies ranges, low and mid and high frequencies. Really useful when you want to apply this effect to a whole drum loop. So by using the split module, you can keep all of the low frequencies intact and only apply the effect to the mid and high frequencies. So the split module, same as the noise, is off by default. So if you want to use it, first thing to do, enable the plugin. Next, we have the frequency knobs, which set the crossover point between low and mid and high frequencies. Next, we have the crossover slope slider, which set the steepness of filtering at the crossover frequency, with a range from 6 to 96 dB per octave. Next, we have the solo buttons. So the one on the right, solo the mid and high frequencies, or the frequencies that you want to apply the effect. And the right solo button, put in solo the low frequencies or the frequencies that you want to keep intact. And last, we have the linear phase button. By default is off, but if you need to use the splitter linear phase mode, then enable the button. Okay, so now that we cover all of the panels, let's have a listen to some examples. Here I have a basic drum loop, which sounds good, but is a bit robotic. So let's have a listen to it. Okay, so let's add a little bit of life to this drum loop with the Randomness plugin. I'm gonna start adding one instance to the clap and snare group. So I'm gonna put in solo the clap and snare group, and I'm gonna add the plugin. Okay, the first thing that I'm gonna do is to set up the speed. So as the clap and snare, it's happening every second and fourth beat of a bar, I'm gonna set the speed every 2 steps. And now I'm gonna add a bit of randomness to the attack and to the sustain. And let's have a listen to it. I'm gonna add a little bit of randomness to the volume. And with the pump knob, I'm gonna do it a little bit snappier. Okay, and last here on the clap and snare group, I'm gonna go to the noise module and I'm gonna add a bit of noise. Okay, now let's have a listen to the clap and snare group before and after. Now let's add another instance to the Randomness plugin to the hi-hat. But this time I'm gonna work on each individual channel rather than the whole group. So I'm gonna start with the hi-hat close one. Now let's do the same with the hi-hat close too. Okay, and last I'm gonna add another instance to the right channel. Okay, now let's have a listen to the cymbals group with and without the plugin. Okay, now let's have a listen to the whole drum loop without and with the plugin. Okay, now I'm gonna add another instance to the drum bass so we can see the split panel in function. So here on the drum bass, I'm gonna add another instance of the randomness and I'm gonna go to the split panel. And now I'm gonna activate the split panel and I'm gonna find the perfect crossover point by listening in solo the low frequencies. Okay, so as I said, the crossover point on 400 Hz and the slope is 18 dB per octave. I don't see any problem on the crossover point, so I don't think it's necessary to enable linear phase mode. Now I'm gonna go to the speed panel and I'm gonna modify the randomness speed of the attack to happen every half beat. The sustain speed, I'm gonna leave it on every beat, and the volume speed, I'm gonna change it to 1 bar. And now I'm gonna go back to the main panel and I'm gonna start adding a small amount of randomness to the attack, sustain and volume. It's a subtle effect, but definitely add life to this drum loop and make it feel a little bit more real. So now let's have a listen to how this plugin works with different drum loops. First, I have this drum loop 1, which is a clear example of when we can use the small knob that control the range. Let me show you the reason why. So I'm gonna add attack and sustain to the plugin and let's have a listen to the drum loop 1. So as you can listen, the plugin is not working as it should work. The reason for that is because this drum loop, the clap and snare on the fourth beat of ba is a pre-shifted clap. So the transient plugin is not completely synchronized with the beat. That's why we have this knob which control the range. So I'm gonna press play again and I'm gonna fine tune with the range knob so you can listen the difference. Now the plugin works way better, but let me show you why this knob sometimes can be really important. So here I add a better oscilloscope and I'm gonna play a pre-shifted clap. So I'm gonna put the range knob on the default position and I'm gonna crank the attack knob. And now let's have a listen to this pre-shifted clap. So as you can see and hear, the transient plugin is adding the attack to the beginning of the sample, and that's not what we want. What we want is to add the attack to the transient of the sample. Now, in order to do that, I have to use the range button. So the transient plugin is working on sidechain mode and it's not gonna receive this information. It's only gonna receive the transient of the sample. So now I'm gonna exaggerate the effect with the pump knob and I'm gonna adjust the range so you can really see what the range knob is doing. And that's the perfect sweet spot. Now let's have a listen to the randomness in a different drum loop. Now, this drum loop is a clear example of when we have to use a linear phase mode on the split module. So let me disable the linear phase and let's have a listen to this drum loop. So as you can listen and see on the meters, we definitely have to switch on the linear phase mode of the split module. And last, before I jump into the installation process, let me show you another example of using the randomness with a different drum loop. Okay, so the installation process is really easy. So first, download the zip from the description below. So once you have the document, double click on it and open the zip. Now in here, I have the folder. So inside of the folder, you have the plugin, you have the manual, and you also have a PDF with the web of a kilohertz, because as I mentioned earlier, you need the free transient shaper of kilohertz. So double click first on the PDF, just go a little bit down and here it says kilohertz essential. Click on it, open in Safari or your favorite browser, and now here on the kilohertz website, you are gonna download the kilohertz essential. So click on download, click again on download, and it's gonna ask you for your email. Now don't be scared, they are not gonna send you offers, spam or anything like that. They are asking you for your emails to send you all of the license, because yes, even though all of these plugins are free, you still need to input the license. So input the email, they are gonna send you the license to your email and you are gonna be able to download the installer for this pack. Okay, so here I have the kilohertz installer. I'm gonna left click on it and now it's gonna open the installer program. So I'm gonna go to the install page and in here is gonna select all of the essential plugins. You are free to install all of the plugins or not. So I'm gonna select none of them and then here on the bottom you have the transient shaper. That's the only plugin that you need in order to use the randomness. So select transient shape and click on install. Next, open FL Studio and add the kilohertz transient shaper to your database. Input the license and that's it. So once you have input the license, now you can close FL Studio. And in order to open the plugin, simply double click on it and FL Studio will automatically open the plugin for you. Now, in order to add the plugin to your database, you can either go to the plugin options, save preset as, and you can save it as a butcher preset. Now, if you want the plugin to be part of your plugin list, go straight into your plugin database, effects, and select the folder that you want to add this plugin. This time, I'm going to select filter. Okay, now in filter, I'm gonna right click on it and open. So now with this folder in here, I'm simply gonna take the randomness plugin and I'm gonna drag and drop into this folder. So now if I close these windows, if I wanna add the plugin, I just have to go to filter and here I have the randomness. Click on it and here you have your free plugin. And the other document is the manual of the randomness. So double click on it and FL Studio will automatically open the manual. The manual is divided in the 4 different sections. The main module, the speed module, the noise module, and the split module. Now, another way to access the manual is straight from the plugin. So if I open an instance of the randomness, if I go to map, here on the top right corner, you are gonna see the manual. So simply click on it and you are gonna have it always ready for you. Okay, that's all for me. Hope you enjoyed this plugin as much as I do. If you have any question, please leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching. My name is JonHut.